Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a question from our friend Charles who says, I have an issue with my current weight. I'm 122 pounds, and I am often shamed for it. I look gaunt, and in the area I live there is an addict population I am often associated with on appearance alone, despite not ever even drinking, beyond wine during communion at my church. I've tried to fix my weight. I work out daily. I eat large portions, almost to the point that I'm carb loading. I do compound workouts. I get ample sleep. And no matter what I do, I cannot seem to gain weight. I, by definition, am a hard gainer. Do you have any advice to explain how I can gain weight? All right, Charles, at 122 pounds. Just so you know, you're about 30 pounds heavier than I was at age 18. And yeah, I was one of those classical hard gainers, and I'll tell you what I did. And this is advice I would recommend for you. First of all, go make sure you don't have any parasites. Go get checked for that, because that is a real thing that does happen. But beyond that, beyond parasites and rare medical conditions, here's what's probably happening. You mentioned you were eating large portions. Okay, I did too when I weighed 90 pounds at a height of 6'1". I ate huge portions, as much as I could fit in my stomach, to the point that I felt bloated. And people would always say, just eat more, and I would think, I can't physically eat more. That's ridiculous. How do you do that? So my advice to you, eat smaller portions, but eat more of them. But before you do any eating, go find out what your basal metabolic rate is. What is that? It's how much energy, how many calories your body burns. How many calories your body burns each day by doing nothing, by just existing, simply by being alive and breathing. So if you just lied on your back all day long and did nothing else, your basal metabolic rate is how much energy it would take your body to do that and stay alive. So that number is going to vary based on how big you are, how old you are, a number of other variables in that equation. But I want you to Google it. Google it. How to calculate my basal metabolic rate. It's not hard. You can find some basal metabolic rate calculators on the internet. Fill out a couple of lines. Here's my weight. Here's my whatever. And it'll spit right out how many calories you need to eat every day just to stay alive. Okay. Now, if you want to gain weight, you need to eat more than that number. And if you're a hard gainer, I would recommend double that number. Yeah, if you're one of those skinny-looking, anorexic-looking people who gets mistaken for a meth head or a crack addict or something like that because you're so gaunt, consider doubling that number. And you might think, well, hey, wait a minute. We just talked about how I can't fit any more food in my stomach. I can't eat bigger portions. I know. Don't eat bigger portions, because the bigger the portion, the longer it takes to digest. The more slowly you digest your portions, the longer it's going to take till your next meal. And so the fewer calories you'll get in your stomach. So you got to break the 3 meals a day mold. And instead, substitute those 3 bigger meals where you are gorging yourself as much as you can for smaller meals, but more of them, and more nutrient-packed meals. Keep a food journal. Write down what you eat, everything that you eat, for 2 weeks. Write it down. And after the 2 weeks, I want you to measure the calories. Count the calories. Find out how many actual calories you have been getting on average per day in those 2 weeks. And it may surprise you. Let's assume for a moment, let's make an assumption that you have a basal metabolic rate of 2,000 calories a day. So you need 2,000 calories a day to maintain your current size. To put on more size, you need to eat more than 2,000 calories a day. To lose weight, you need to eat less than 2,000 calories a day. After you log the stats in that food journal, after you write down those facts about what is going in your mouth, as opposed to what feels like is going into your stomach. Because again, we have to separate fact from feeling. Because you probably feel stuffed all the time. You probably feel full to the point where eating more just feels impossible all the time. You feel that way. I understand that because I felt that same way too. But the reality was I simply wasn't getting enough calories. It wasn't a parasite. It wasn't a rare condition. It was a matter of calories. So, let's go back to that 2,000 calorie basal metabolic rate. Double that to 4,000 calories. So let's say your 3 meals a day got you up to 2,000 calories. Well, let's go 6 meals a day. And let's do some snacks in between. And let's do a couple of supplements here and there. By supplements, I mean maybe a protein shake, maybe a weight gainer shake, something like that with some extra calories. And you might think, oh my, this is an impossible amount of eating, especially for a guy my size. You're going to have to train yourself up to it. Yeah, as far as putting on muscle, the hardest part is not doing the compound lifts, which you say you're doing already. That's great. Keep doing them. It's not doing the exercise. For a hard gainer, that's a skinny guy, it is training yourself to eat. And for many of us, it's simply being able to afford the volume of food and nutrition that you need to stuff into your guts on a daily basis to get bigger. Because it's going to be more expensive, and that might hurt your wallet, that might hurt your feelings. Oh, I don't like to see those numbers slipping out of my bank account, and those bills slipping out of my wallet. But they will, if that's what you want. Getting big is not cheap. It's not. I had a comment from this guy, an obesity apologist, the other day, where he said, I know it's cheaper to eat fast food than to eat healthy food. And I thought about that for a minute, and I remembered when I was a little kid, and we would say to my mother, who's from Northern England, by the way, we would say, hey, Mommy, can we go to McDonald's and get a hamburger? And she'd get all mad because we had no money. We were poor. And my mother would say, you want a hamburger? I'll make you a hamburger. We're going to McDewey's. And she'd go home and make some facsimile of a hamburger with rolled oats and homemade bread made out of wheat that she ground herself. And it tastes absolutely nothing like McDonald's. So I know a thing or two about eating when you have no money. Because we had no money when I was young, and that's part of the reason I was so deathly thin. But you can survive on very little. A giant 50-pound bag of oats is a whole lot cheaper than fast food. And it'll last you a whole lot longer too. You can buy a giant 50-pound bag of oats, or you can buy an extra value meal at McDonald's. One of those has a whole lot more volume and a whole lot more calories and a whole lot more potential to feed you than the other. That being said, if money is no object, then there aren't a lot of excuses there. Smaller meals that are digestible within a couple of hours, Then you get up and move. It's very important to get up and move after you eat that smaller meal. Why? Because when we get up and move, then our intestines move. Then our bowels move. Then the food is moved along through the digestive tract, making room for more food, making you able to eat again. So if you're that hard gainer, that's what you need to do. Eat a little, move. Eat a little more, move. Eat a little more, move. And you're doing this every 2 hours. You are cramming an optimal amount of food into your mouth. Not a maximum amount, but an optimal amount. So you're going to have to do some experimentation with your own body to figure out how much food can I digest within 2 hours so that I can eat again 2 hours later after moving. And this is going to go on. Look at diets of some famous big dudes. Take The Rock, for example, one of the most famously famous big dudes on the planet. That guy eats all the time. All the time. Look up his diet. It's fascinating. Look up the diets of strength athletes. Look up the diets of bodybuilders. Look up the diets of the big dudes whose bodies you may want to emulate. Start emulating their diets. They're not just eating giant portions that are inflating their stomach. No. Again, they're eating those small portions, then they're moving, training, and then eating more as that food is processed and pushed along, moved along the digestive tract, so that they can get optimal nutrition to put on size, to bulk up. So your optimal nutrition needs might be 4,000 calories a day, might be 6,000, might just be a little over 2,000. Or a little over your basal metabolic rate. You might need to take it slowly. In fact, that's generally the way things work in terms of fitness. It's funny, everybody understands with weights. You start out with the small ones, and then you build up to the heavier ones, and that's a gradual process. Eating, on the other hand, we don't seem to understand that. That going from, say, a 2,000 calorie diet a day to a 6,000 calorie diet a day isn't just a, boom, one quick step. You gotta build up to that too. Good luck to you, my friend. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.